Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to another interview. Today I have the well-hydrated Gerry Duffy. Hey Gerry, good to see you taking care of yourself there, looking after the hydration levels. How you doing today?
You weren't supposed to see that.
Busted. Oh, it's good. It's good to have your glass of water with you. In fact, you know what? I was looking around thinking, like, oh my goodness, I don't have a glass of water with me. Like to hand, it's really unusual for me. So I'll have to make sure I chug down some after this session today. But look, I know you're really busy. It's the end of December. And you've got a busy calendar of events and talks and presentations that you're giving at the moment, clients that you're working with. So I do appreciate you taking some time to come and talk to us a little bit more.
Delighted to be here. Absolutely. I love our chats and I love working with the communities that you reach out to, George. So I can assure you, you're pushing an open door.
Well, great to know. And I did throw you under the bus a little bit, Gerry, and said that what Gerry's going to talk about is 4 keys, because this is one of the topics that you'll be covering at Momentum in January in Athlone. 2020momentum.com if you haven't got your tickets for it yet. Now, that's a fairly kind of long session, and we've got about 20-25 minutes today. So why don't you kind of introduce what those keys are and a little bit about what you'll be talking about, and then maybe go into detail on 1 or 2 of them, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah. So the event that you mentioned, Momentum, is on in January. It's our fourth one. So myself and Pat, and we have, we all have significant time on stage, so we'll have time to deep dive into these things. But just for the purpose of today, just give people a flavour of what are the kind of things that the content kind of has within it. And for me, I'm doing 2 big sessions that day. The first one is what I've discovered for me, as I reflect on my life, and I love to reflect on what's life teaching you. Like I just had a big milestone birthday last year, so I'm very conscious of where I am in my life. And that's what I believe is the first key to a great life. From 17 to 27, George, that time went in a flash. And when I got to 27, I had very little awareness of a lot of things that had happened in the previous 10 years. In many ways, I was living life unconsciously in that time. And I just kind of woke up at 27, and the catalyst for that reawakening was physical exercise. And so what I got from that, I got fitter physically, but I also got fitter mentally. And it woke me up to really being aware of the fact that I was 27, and where did that time go, that decade go? So the first key to a great life, and I've learned to have a system and a process in place to hold myself accountable to this time, actively practicing this, is the first key is conscious awareness that we actually are alive. Because we all say, gosh, it's great to be alive, but an added value of really getting true value out of that statement is to practice it. To practice awareness, so for example, we're doing this on a Thursday, and this day that you and I and the listeners have, we will never, ever, 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 ever have this day again. And we do get a finite number of these things. And I don't share that to be morbid. I share that to make people very aware that, if we're lucky enough to get 80, 90, 100 years, that's how quick it goes in the way the universe measures time. It goes in the blink of an eye. And so the first key to great life is, I think, to just make the most of your life. But one way to do that is to have constant awareness as we go through life that it's not here forever. And am I making the most of my life? Or is it a case, gosh, where did that year go? So things in my life, in my year, that show evidence that I'm really making the most of this life. And the foundation to that is just conscious, not unconscious, but conscious awareness that this day or this week or this month, we're in December 2019, it's here now, and am I making the most of it? Because very soon it's going to be January, and December is going to be gone forever. And so I'll be bringing people on a journey. This is the first thing I'm going to be covering that day. We're going to do an exercise on this. It's going to last about 10 minutes, where I'm really going to either awaken or reawaken that in the audience, and have particular things that I'm going to encourage them to think about that will really bring this to life for them. What are the important things? Who are the important people that they get to spend time with while they're on the earth? And just to create that maybe heightened awareness of it. And I believe it will really empower us to make the most of 2020, which is what Momentum 2020 is all about.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I remember sitting through an exercise that you did, a similar one in January this year in Athlone, and just immersing myself in it, but also being aware of the room and the energy and the emotion that you can almost kind of feel it in the air. It's absolutely incredible. And just as you were talking through it there, Gerry, and talking about the whole you had this awakening when you were 27. It came from physical exercise, but just having this awareness. And as you were talking through it, I found myself, I couldn't stop myself. I was going in and inquiring into my own life and just spending those few moments thinking, yeah, kind of, where am I in my life? And I think that's the power of this type of thinking. It's, if you get into it, then you can come up with all kinds of amazing answers and have these amazing revelations that you just wouldn't have if you're just going through life on autopilot. So just that moment to stop and think is just incredibly powerful. And I think, I certainly got a little bit from the last few minutes of you speaking there. So that was great.
Yeah. And I remember
what else
about 3 years ago, George, I'd had this particular goal in mind for a couple of years. And I remember at the end of 2016, suddenly realizing that I hadn't done anything about it. And I realized, the clock is ticking here in terms of the opportunity to do this goal. So I distinctly remember at the end of 2016 doing this deeper thing and said, Gerry, the time is now. It's not sometime in the future. You either make this goal happen now in your life, or it's probably time will pass you by and you won't. It'll be too late. So I got very focused for the year 2017, and I brought that goal to life. But the key to bringing that goal to life was conscious awareness of the fact that the time was passing here, and just to create the future rather than wait for the future.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody who's sitting around with a problem of having too much spare time on their hands, right? We're all really busy. We're all waiting for the perfect time to do things and to take action. And you said the time is now. You got to prioritize. If it's something that's important to you, you've got to find the time and make the time, create the time, carve it out, and then just go ahead and start taking those actions instead of waiting. So, what was that goal, Gerry? What was it?
It was to grow my business in the US. So I wanted to do more speaking in the US, and I'd done some of it, but I really wanted to bring it to a higher level. So in 2017, I took some significant steps in making that happen.
Well, what have you taken? You've done an incredible number of ultra endurance events over your years as well, and kind of within that, what have been some of the things you've taken in terms of goal setting and planning and preparation and discipline, determination, grit, all those things that you have to do 10 back-to-back Ironmans and 32 back-to-back marathons and some of the other crazy things that you've done. You need that for that. How much of that have you found you've been able to take into other areas of your life, like your business and your own personal development as well?
Yeah, I think with those kind of things, we need to be very disciplined with a thing called time, because everything we want to achieve is over time. And I've discovered we all have the time, but we prioritize time differently. And doing those kind of events, or even, it doesn't even have to be that magnitude, even, for example, training for a marathon, it takes a lot of time. You really have to ramp up your focus, and obviously you go to a higher level in training. But it's just to really, I guess, I learned this maybe 11, 12 years ago when I was training for my first Ironman. I remember I had a really busy life, and I said, where am I going to fit in the time here? So I learned the value of, at the weekend, planning the week ahead. And there's a quote by a man called Jim Rohn. He said, either you run the week or the week runs you. Yeah. And so what it taught me was to take control of time rather than let time control me. And this is one of the big messages in Momentum 2020. 2020 has nothing planned for George Anderson, it's nothing planned for Gerry Duffy, and it's nothing planned for anybody that might be listening to this. However, if we are willing to plan 2020, that's a whole different ballgame. Yeah. So the big thing I would have got out of those events that I was fortunate enough to do was the importance of planning the time ahead to create the future, to deciding, here's the keywords, in advance what success looks like. And that's one of the big messages we'll be sharing with people on the 11th of January, is to decide in advance what way you want 2020 to be, and then to do that deeper thinking on that. Well, what do I really want? And maybe now this is the year, not sometime, but this time. And so I guess, the other thing about doing, whether we're doing Ironmans or marathons or 5Ks or walking or Pilates or whatever, is exercise for me was a game changer in my life. And it just changed my whole psychology. So I just happen primarily to do it now through running or going to the gym or whatever it might be. But exercise is different things for different people. But exercise helps me in every area of my life. So exercise is non-negotiable. It's one of the most important things that gets put in place. Every Sunday, I decide exactly when I'm going to exercise. And I find I'm far more likely to create that in my future. by doing that, rather than middle of Monday afternoon, will I go to the gym or go for runs this evening? I would probably make an excuse. So that day it won't get done. So this is almost taken out of my own hands and committing on a Sunday, I'm going to do it here and here and here in the week ahead. And that's a key thing I've learned. It's very simple. I'm not saying it's easy because it could be a new habit for people, but it has had a huge impact in terms of me getting things done in my life. Deciding in advance, writing them down, getting really specific, scheduling in advance when I'm going to do it, much more likely to get it done.
Yeah, no, great advice there. And yeah, as you said, something that we can all take something from. And I love that Jim Rohn quote. I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn as well. And just kind of repeat that quote again, Gerry, about the week.
Sure, yeah, and he's so many great quotes. I'll give you another one in a second. But he said, either you run the week or the week runs you.
Yeah.
And another great one that many people on this listing might be interested in. He said this. He said, "Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live." Yeah,
how true. So simple, right? But absolutely true. And actually talking about self-care and looking after ourselves, I know we're sort of darting around a little bit here. We've only covered one of the keys. I know we won't get through all four, but hopefully we'll get a chance to mention the others. But you're also going to spend a bit of time talking about self-care, aren't you, Gerry, at Momentum? It's something that has been a big part of your life and your success that I know you share with your audience as well. It's just, as you said, something that you just have to do because it's got to be non-negotiable. So tell me a little bit more about what you mean by self-care and how it works for you.
Yeah, so I'm going to be doing a significant, like a 30-minute exercise on this on the day. And I'll probably ask the audience, who here ate a healthy breakfast this morning, and we'll get a lot of hands up. And then I'll ask them, why did you do that? And they'll probably share with me, well, because my body's paying attention and I got to do it. I'll have more energy. It's obviously fueling me to perform. And then I'll say, who here did some exercise this week? Why did you do it? Because of the same reasons. And in my early 20s, I didn't do exercise. I wasn't watching my diet and I didn't achieve an awful lot of things. And when I started to exercise and do that, things started to change. And what it taught me, George, was my daily behavior really matters. Mm-hmm. The things I'm doing every day really matter. And I will be asking one big question of people and really digging into it because it'll be different. People will have different answers. Everybody in the room will have a different answer to this. There'll be many answers. There will be 8, 10, 15 answers for everybody. But the key question I will be asking people is, and even if people are not coming to Momentum, this question, here's what I will encourage people listening to this to do, is ask yourself this question. To show up at your optimum best each week, what does an ideal week look like for you? So for example, in an ideal week, for you to show up at your best, what time would you be going to bed? What time would you need to get up? What kind of food would you be eating? Look at it in terms of, so for me, if I want to show up at my best, because I travel a lot, I'm in the car an awful lot. For me to show up at my best, I need to have a clean car every Monday morning, pristine, clean, because a cluttered car feeds into a cluttered mind. So it's a 15-minute system and process I do on a Sunday. 15 minutes, clean the car, make sure it's ready to go. I'll iron all my shirts on a Sunday. I'll have them all ready on a Sunday so that I have them all ready to go, rather than ironing shirts every night kind of stuff. Because if I iron them every night, it shows me I'm not in control. Mm-hmm. So these are simple things that I now do to show up at my best. And there's lots of other things as well. So what I would be encouraging people to do is to write down the 8 or 10 or 12 things that they would do in an ideal week to show up at their optimum best. And then I will invite them to rate their current level of satisfaction in how they feel they are doing at this time in these areas. And we'll be doing this in the form of a physical document on the day, and we'll be drawing a wheel, and we'll be then measuring it and drawing it. And people will have a visual of, okay, because the idea of the wheel is it'll show them what level of balance they have, because they'll have identified the key areas, and now they'll have a scorecard, a personal scorecard of how they're doing, and perhaps an area of focus, some low-hanging fruit that would, gosh, if I just got up 15 minutes earlier, everything might change. So it'll be different things for different people, but it's going on anyway. Our daily behavior is going on anyway. So what are the ideal daily behaviors if I want to show up at my best each week of 2020?
Yeah, I think that's really, there's a couple of things that just leapt out at me there. First of all, that it's going to be different for everybody. And there is no one size fits all solution to this. And sometimes it's the small things that make the big differences, right? Getting to bed a quarter of an hour earlier, ironing your shirts, all together on a Sunday night instead of doing it day by day. Because obviously that takes longer, having to get the iron out, the ironing board, heat it up. And that takes a finite amount of time for each shirt. So there's these small things that we can start to do that do have this knock-on effect. But the other thing that really jumped out at me was, again, about the shirts. You mentioned there that when you are doing all your shirts together, it tells you that you're in control. And so the question I have for you on that is that a feeling that you get? So when you're doing this, does it feel like you're stepping into the in control Gerry Duffy, and assuming that identity is, yeah, this is me at my best? Do you actually physically feel that and think those things at the same time?
Well, let me ask the people listening to this question. I'm sure everybody, certainly me included, is at some stage we have a really untidy house or bedroom. Remember, so when you go and clean the bedroom or clean the house, you do a spring clean of your house. Just remind yourself, how does that make you feel? Is it fair to say it really makes us feel empowered and really kind of like we've drawn a line in the sand and we're ready to go again? So that's the feeling that it gives me. But also, this feeds into my work as well. So if I was doing my wheel of the optimum best, I do a lot of keynote presentations, do lots of kind of talks and leadership programs and all those kind of things. But for example, if I had a keynote talk and it was on today, so today we're recording this on a Thursday, if I was writing that talk last night, that would tell me I'm not in control of the way I'm showing up this week. So I try, and the word is try, I try and have a T minus 7 days to have a very solid draft of today's presentation written a week ago. That's evidence that I'm in control. And the feeling that will give me will be empowering. I'm in control. A week ago, I have it okay, and I'm ready to go even a week in advance. Now, I might still tweak it up to the day before. That's fine. But if I'm cramming it literally in the last 24 hours, I have lots of other things, and I might have time because something unexpected could happen. I think I'm going to do this the day before, and somebody says, "Well, actually, you can't. You've got to be over here." All this feeds into just really feeling overwhelmed and not in control. So that's why these things really, really matter. So I just discovered just a bit of reflection as well. What are the ideal things? And then just to look at areas of your life and what's an area that we could improve that would have some big wins for us.
Okay. So look, Gerry, tell me what those other keys are. I'm dying to know, and I know I'm going to get the full shebang at Momentum, as hopefully some others who are listening to this will as well. But just for the kind of completeness, what are the other keys to living your best life that you started off with in this recording?
Yeah, so the second one, so we shared the first one, which is conscious living. The second one is the importance of, it's a personal opinion, but the importance of setting goals. Because I used to have goals in my life, and I realized I didn't have a purpose. It didn't have overtly huge meaning. So when I started to set goals in my late 20s, everything started to change. And so just the importance of setting goals for 2020, because otherwise potentially I might look back in 2020, gosh, I didn't really achieve much. And you see, one area we get happiness from is from growth. And I've identified, well, if I can set goals, maybe they challenge me a little bit, I get that growth and I get that happiness that's aligned with that. So that's what I believe to be the second pillar. The third pillar is identifying what standards we will reach in those goals. And I've learned to identify the most important things in my life, the things I'm most passionate about. And it might be a very small list, it could be 3, 4, 5 things. But the importance for me of reaching the highest standard of all, which is the very best I'm capable of reaching. So I'll have 3 or 4 big goals, different areas of my life. So it could be relationships with my family, it could be my fitness, and I'll have a goal to be the very best I can be if that's something that's really important to me. So the standards that we bring, because everything we do to standards. There's nothing we don't do that we don't. Even when we sleep to a standard. Yeah. And the fourth one, and I know you'll be a big fan of this, is the importance of our physical and mental health. Yeah. And it's the foundation for everything. Yeah. So it's the pillar to a great life is, how we're showing up physically and mentally, what food are we eating, how are we looking after our bodies, and it has to be mentioned on the day. Because we can be monumentally, for example, if people are coming from a business perspective, but I meet so many business people that are phenomenal at business, but they're overstressed, and maybe there's other areas of their life that's, gosh, I'd love to improve this. So it's about having that balance, and I believe just self-care of physical and mental and eating right is very, very important and an absolute key to a great life. Mm-hmm. So there are the 4 keys.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And I think, even just starting that very brief synopsis of them there's something in there for everyone to take something out of and start looking at. It's, Pat Divilly, who was also going to be with us on the day that we've run this with for the last 3-4 years. He's a big believer in the 1% every day, 1% better every day rule. So you just keep getting a bit better. And what's interesting with everything that you've spoken about there is, especially around the physical well-being, there's a big shift, or a big kind of belief by a lot of people that you have to be perfect. You have to do it all. You have to follow the diet plan 100%. You have to follow the workout plan 100%. You have to never ever have another negative thought in your mind again. Otherwise you failed. Well, of course, that's not the truth. It's not the case. And you can get tremendous and sustainable results by shifting your attention towards making that progress and just being consistent with it and accepting that there are going to be some setbacks. In fact, that's one of the things that I'm going to be talking about on the day, is how to kind of set goals in a very different way, and how to almost overcome yourself with knowing that what we know about ourselves, that most people or many people have a tendency towards maybe self-sabotage, or getting tired and stressed and then not doing the things that they said that they were going to do, and then beating themselves up about the fact that they haven't done the thing. It gets into this vicious circle. So all of the things that you talked about there, they're there for improvement. You don't have to get to that point of perfection like 100% of the time. Just making an effort to be more conscious, to take care of yourselves physically, to set better goals, strive towards them. All these things are kind of right for the progress, not perfection principle as well.
For sure, yeah. It'll be a fun day, and even if people can't join us, hopefully this recording, and I know you do lots of other things as well, but just people, if somebody gets one thing from this 25 minutes, and I don't think it's about getting 5 things or 6 things. It's about maybe taking what's one thing that people watching this or listening to this, what one thing that might be of value to them, and maybe just trying it out for themselves and seeing, does this work for me? So that's one. If I had one recommendation, maybe people have given us 25 minutes of their life listening to this, George. So what's one key takeaway that you might take from this if you're listening or watching, and maybe try it out? And I wish you great success with it, and I hope it does help.
So this is our 4th outing of Momentum, and it's certainly a highlight of my year. I know Pat's very passionate about it and enjoys it immensely as well. I know that you do too. But what are some of the things that you personally take away from it? What are some of the reasons why you're so keen to each year come back and get together with, the 3 of us and put on an event like this?
Yeah, well, I love working with you. I love working with Pat. I love the energy that people bring to the room. Everybody's there because they want to be there. So just the audience is, and I know you've seen this, just fantastic energy, and a very nice, not going crazy energy, but just a nice, people are up for it, and they want to have a great life, live a great life, and they want to set goals. So it's wonderful hanging around with hundreds of people that are in that same mindset. And also for me, I find it's a great grounding to, okay, now this year, we're here right now, rather than waiting until February, March. We've designed this to be at a very specific time in the year by design. It's very early in January for a reason, and it's just to help people just to maybe kickstart a great year for them, rather than waiting. The first quarter in 2020 will be over in the blink of an eye. So for me, hopefully people get that just drawing the line in the sand. I know I certainly do. Right? Okay, we're at a new start line here. Like a year. Like if we're lucky, we get 80 or 90 of them. Like who here listens to this? The last year's gone so fast.
Yeah. So
just for me, it gets me at the start line and it gets me up and running. And now from that day, I'm usually into motion and making things happen. And hopefully for everybody, it will be a great year.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good fun. And of course, the majority of people listening to this, the majority of people, in our kind of subscribers and followers and so on, are not going to be able to make it. But one of the things that I kind of encourage people to do is to have something in January, or have something sort of end of December where you're just doing, as you suggested there, just drawing that line in the sand and saying, right, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna just absolutely launch myself into this new year. And we haven't even mentioned it on this call today, but this isn't just a new year. This is a new decade. And if there was ever a time to just absolutely step it up and go for your goals and just get out of your own way, it's at the threshold of a new decade. That has to be, there's something kind of magical about that, I think, is the shift towards it and into the 2020 vision, right? It's just there. It's just crying out for massive goals, big plans, and huge action from people. So exciting times ahead.
For sure. And the one thing I've learned is, George, we're only ever one decision away from making change, which is great news. So if somebody has something that they really want, and maybe they wanted it for a month or 6 months or maybe 6 years. The good thing is it's only ever one decision away. And what's the first step I would take? And maybe just having maybe the courage or the ambition just to take that step. But I think if you use the analogy of a pool, just by putting your feet in the water and getting wet, I think it will give you the confidence and maybe the drive just to move to the next stage. And all of a sudden you might find that goal that you felt might have been so out there, you've actually maybe achieved it even before you know.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, I'm excited about January. Looking forward to catching up with you and Pat again. Thanks for today. As I said, I know you're busy at this time of year, as you're still, people are still out there needing to be motivated, needing to be kicked into shape, planned and scheduled and got ready for the new year. And I will see you in Athlone on January the 11th. And guys, if you're listening to this and thinking, I want to be there as well, or you want to find out more, then go to 2020momentum.com and all the information is on the website. Gerry, thanks again for joining me. Have a great Christmas.
And the same to you and everybody watching.